Okay, I'm talking. This is Out the Window, and that's our theme. And I would like to welcome you all, and I would like to embrace this technology somehow. It's new to me, but I'd like to be big in the box because I have things to show, and it's not happening. Okay, a little bit about me first. I know some of you know me from the mill classes. I am an art school graduate. I went to school in Baltimore. Then I decided after high school that I would go into the advertising world and the field. So I went to school for advertising design and illustration. After that, I spent 33 years in the hot seat for creating ads, billboards, illustration, all kinds of materials, for the world of advertising and spreading the word. I'm still not big in the box. What is happening to that? Michelle, you're the only one big in the box. Can you hear me? No? Can anybody hear me? Yes. Okay. Hi, Joanne. Okay. I'd just like to go over a little bit about materials first. Now, am I big in the box to everybody else? I am. Okay, then I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. Materials. We talked about, I gave a list of paper, which you can either work off of a block of watercolor paper or you can work off of a pad. This is, you can see this is Arches. It's the finest paper, and the reason it's the finest is because it holds water very well, it holds paint very well, and that's what you need when you're a watercolorist. What else we need to know? Brushes. I'm not sure how many people have a selection of brushes, but you really would need, small, medium, large, or at least one, maybe number 10. Here's a number 10, but it creates a point. Let me do that to show you. As long as your brush can create a wash that's big enough and a point that's small enough, then you're in good shape. Okay. Next thing, let's see. We're going to talk about palettes a little bit. There are two ways to work off of palette. There's probably more, but this is the two that I know and I use frequently. This is a palette that's set up from warm to cool. And it goes, I really need to be big in the box. How can that happen?
You're big in our boxes.
Now you're big now, and you're chatting and you're talking, so that's really odd. Oh, this is
Karen, you are big in our box.
I know, but I have to see myself so I know what I'm the degree of what I'm showing. That's the problem. And okay, anyway, this is a palette that's set up. It's a plastic palette, and what's really kind of cool about it is, as you see the names going all around the edge of the outside, it tells you what colors are there. Lift it up. Okay, everybody see that? Okay, that's very helpful when you're painting, and if something is running low, then you can get back to it. Okay, the other way to work is off of pan colors, and this is what pan colors are. Of course, you guys know that. Now, let's see. I'm wondering who is working off of like pan colors. Most people? Most people. Okay. So when I talk about the tubes, just ignore that. But those are the two best ways to work. I'd like to talk about masking fluid. Does everybody know what that is for or what to do with it? Okay. There's a couple ways you can work with that. Masking fluid comes in a pen form like this. Okay, yeah, or it comes in a jar, and it could be called a bunch of things: masking fluid, marking fluid. But what I suggest is that you buy it where it comes in a jar, okay, and then you transfer it to these little bottles. They have a little point, and it works very well. Why are you shaking your head? Okay, well, I can't hear you anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Those always clog up on me.
Well, there's a way to work with that, and I should explain that. But let me get it farther along in here. Okay, and you can order those little bottles online. They're very inexpensive, and you just keep a pin in the end of them, and you make sure you rinse it out with warm water at the end of your painting period. Okay, let's see what else. Erasers and pencils. Of course, you need a soft eraser, and you need a rubber cement pickup. Those are things you're going to need along the way if you're really getting into it. Okay, let me get down to the theme of what we're doing here. Does everyone have at least 2 images? Like pictures that you're working from? Okay, that's good. You can shake your, you can give me a raise of your hand or whatever. Okay, well, yes, you have 1? Well, that's what you need to start with, 1. All right, the first thing I want you to do, and I sent out an email that showed you your image, and then it showed how to create a palette from that image, and then how to create the grid. Those 3 things you're going to need to work out first. Okay, I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. Okay, let's see. Okay, you all got this, correct? Where it shows the image, and then it shows the palette, and then it shows the grid. Okay, the first.
Those were not received.
Michelle? Michelle, are you there?
Michelle is gone, but I got it.
I got it.
I got it also.
Who
Yeah,
said
I got
it
it.
was not received?
It was an attachment to an email.
Here's Michelle.
I'm here. I'm here.
Some people said they didn't receive this.
I'm not really sure why. And if people signed up late for the class, they may not have gotten it. I don't really know. That was sent out when the last time we talked, Karen. So
That's what I thought. That's what I
yeah,
thought.
there may be a few people that didn't get it. If you want to put your email address in the text box, I can send it to you right now.
All right.
The chat
Oh,
box.
anyone who did not receive it, just go to the chat and put your,
And I'll send it to you right now. Okay?
okay, that sounds good. I need to be big in that box.
You want to see yourself?
We see you big in the box, Karen.
I know, but I need to see myself because I can't tell where I am with something.
You're doing just fine. Trust me, you're doing great.
Yeah.
I don't know why. If you see it says gallery view on top, it means you're in speaker view, and we know you're in speaker view. I don't know how your computer is set up, so that's something that maybe I could walk you through later. Maybe it's just the way your computer is formatted. But
I don't know.
I've never. I mean, I made you the host, so every time you talk and you're talking the whole time, you're big in the box. For us.
Okay, let's get back to it then. As long as I'm big in the box, that's what counts. Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so with your image, you need to look at the image and you need to see what colors are in there. And then you need to create a palette of 10 colors. You see these 10 colors? And you need to do that on a separate piece of paper. All right, is everybody with me?
On watercolor paper?
Yeah, it can be it should be watercolor paper. It doesn't have to be big, but it should be watercolor paper. Okay, and you're gonna be working off that palette like the whole time that we're working on paintings. The next thing you're gonna do is taking these 10 colors, you're going to make a watercolor grid from that. You see the grid? And what you do is you take 5 colors and you make horizontal lines with them. Wait till they dry. Then you're going to take 5 colors and make vertical lines. And you leave a 1/4 of an inch in between each of the colors, so that when you're done with those, the horizontal and the vertical, you have little boxes and spaces. And in there, you see the colors that are in the spaces that are in between. Those colors need to be put in as complementary colors. And you can, like for instance, if you see this, the blue and it's surrounded by yellow and another pink and green, and you need to look carefully around what's around the color that's in the little jewel spot. That's what I'm going to call that. Okay? So for
Karen?
next week, what you need to do, yes?
Do we need 10 colors?
Yes, you need 10. You need 10. And you know what? When you're looking outside, you can look at a tree and it can have, you know, 5 greens in it. It can have browns. And what you also need to remember is a color can be a value. Like if you say, oh, I have only so many greens, then you can say I have a light green, a dark green, and a middle green. So that's 3 already. Okay, is everybody with me? All right, so that's what happens if you have your picture. First you have your picture, then you have your palette, then you have your grid. Those are the 3 things, and that's the order things have to go in. Now, I'm going to show you what happened when I took the grid and the palette. I'm going to show you where this painting went, because I want you to realize that there's a little bit of imagination and creativity here on your own. You're not, I don't expect you to paint exactly what's there. I want you to embellish, okay? So what happened, when I looked at the painting, I was, well, first of all, here's my grid, here's my palette for all the colors that I saw in the image, okay? Then came the grid, which is here by itself. And what does the grid really show us? The grid shows us what happens when one color goes over another color, when one color is surrounding other colors, and how they're influenced. And that's what the grid is. It's a, yeah. Joanne, you have a question? No?
Do you do the grid when the colors are wet or dry?
No, well, you have to do it in increments. You do the horizontal first, let it dry. Then you go 5 vertical, let it dry. And then you go back, after that's all dry, then you go back and you do the jewel spots in between. And you don't want to put, you know, you can see that the colors that are in between are very much contrasting to what's around them. And that's important. Okay? All right, so then we get to the final.
Sorry, I didn't get, do you do the jewel spot? Sorry.
Yeah, you can do them when the horizontal and vertical
How do
are
you do the
dry.
jewel? Yeah, but what is it
What
composed?
colors?
You pull those colors from your palette. You go back to your palette and you say, okay, what color am I going to put in the open spots that are in the grid?
Yeah, and how do you choose those colors? The ones that surround?
You choose them by contrast. Let's see. You choose them by contrast. You choose them by how they look together, how they feel together, how they look together, and how they work together. That's your choice.
I still don't get how you get to do. I'm not sure how you do the.
Okay. Well, here's the palette. Here's the palette, right? That you've taken from your image. You looked at your photograph, and you say, okay, these are the colors that are in my photograph. Then you take 5 and you make horizontal lines and 5 vertical lines.
I understand all that.
Okay. Now, how do you get the ones that are in the jewel spots? The little paintings that are little spots that are in here. You go back to the palette and you look at that and you look at the openings and you see, oh, well, there's green, blue, and another blue and an orange, like right here. And you say, what would look good in that spot? It has to be contrasting. It can't be the same. And it's just a feeling for color.
So that's a different color. You're not mixing those.
No, you're mixing them from what you did on your palette. The first.
So you're physically mixing those colors to get.
Yes, you're mixing these colors, and you're going to get them from your palette that you have set up, either pan or tube.
So it's a mix of the 4 surrounding colors.
No, it's one of the colors that you take from the grid and you put it into that spot. into
Okay,
that
so it's
spot.
only one of the colors.
Yeah, one of the colors
Not
goes in
everything.
each one of those open spots.
Okay.
Okay, when I looked at that image, the thing that was interesting to me was this. I have this thing hanging on the fence. It's like a big ceramic sun. So even though the picture showed the sun kind of small and the chair was sitting there and there was green behind it, and you know, I said, well, wouldn't it be more exciting if the sun was really big? So that's artistic license. And you can see that in that sun, there's lots of patterns, lots of colors, and lots of excitement. Okay, everybody see? Okay, so that's what you need to do with your photograph or the image that you're working from. The first thing is create the palette, which are the colors that you're going to be choosing out of your photograph. The second thing is making the grid. And the third thing is, now when you go to draw your image, when you go to put your image on paper, I want to talk a little bit about composition. That's a big issue. So now when you go to do your drawing that gets you ready, are you all in the right spot here?
Yeah.
You see how this is very simplified. The fence is just indicated, the deck is indicated, the sun I've really blown up big in the middle. I've indicated a tree line here, and maybe I don't want the green to go all the way up. Maybe I want to see some sky there. So these are your decisions to make. But when you sketch it out, very, very lightly, very simply, and look for the perspective of things, like the way things come forward, the way the fence goes from wide to narrow, narrow to wide. Those are the things you're going to look for. Okay, so this is your light sketch. All right, so are we with me so far? Yes.
Karen, we may not have a colorful thing like you have the sun. We may just have nature.
Yeah,
And-
that's true. That's true. I have another one that's not this way, so I wanted to show you this one first. Okay? Oh, by the way, everybody should really have a way to write things down.
Yes.
Well, a pencil and a piece of paper, because I'm not going to repeat all these things every time. It's good if you had a little notebook. That's good. That's good. Okay, I'm glad you have some paper and pencil because you will need it. There's a lot to set up. Okay, let me just talk about composition for a minute, a little bit, because if you don't have a good composition in your painting, it sort of takes a bad turn. So what are the 8 elements of composition? I'll give you these. Okay, unity. Do all the parts of the composition feel like they belong together? Does something feel out of place? Does something not belong? Why or why not? Or maybe that's how you want it. But these are things to consider, okay? So that's unity, unity. The next thing is balance. Is the picture symmetrical? How does it affect how you view the image? Does it create a sense of balance? Does it have an asymmetrical composition? How does it make you feel? If something is centralized, are you comfortable with that? If something is off center, are you comfortable with that? That's what you have. Those are the decisions you make in your composition. Okay, that's balance. Movement. Movement is the third thing. There are many ways to give a sense of movement in a painting, such as arrangement of objects, the position of figures, the flow of a river, and just like I showed you right now, the fence in the background, how it looked, how it divided the space up. What about rhythm? Rhythm in your painting. In much the same way music does, a piece of art can have rhythm or underlying beat that leads it paces the eye as you look at it. Focus. Focus. The viewer's eye ultimately wants to rest on the most important thing, a la my son. So I wanted the viewer to really take that in because I thought it was colorful, exciting, uplifting. So if you see something in your painting that does that, whether it could be flowers, it could be birds, it could be a background, those are the things you have to, those are the decisions you have to make. Contrast, the difference between light and dark. Let me just talk about light and dark for a minute. Your painting should have a good sense of values. And what I'd like you to do this week also, you see this? This is when you dip your brush into a solid color. Then you take your brush and you dip it into water and you come back. You dip it into water again, come back. So what it is it's showing you values, how things go from dark to light. That's something you could practice over and over, and it's still a difficult feat. So if you would, just try a few things. I have a few more spaces here. Try any color. Try the solid color first, then you dip it in water. You don't rinse the brush, you just dip it in water so that it becomes less and less and less and less. These are the values, and values in your painting are very important because they make something look like it goes round, like it has a feeling, and it has depth. Okay, everybody get this value chart? Okay, the contrast between light and dark in composition. How can the use of light colors or dark colors affect how you feel about your work of art? Well, you know, if it's light colors, it could be uplifting. You know, if it's very dark colors, it could be more somber. So those are the things you have to look at. And I think all those choices take place when you select your image.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Pattern and underlying structure, the basic lines and shapes in the composition. And the last thing in this group is proportion, how things fit together, big and small, near and distant. Now, I made the decision on this painting to really go much larger with the sun because that's where I wanted my focus to be. And I thought it was fun and interesting and uplifting. So if you're looking at your image and you say, oh, these flowers are so beautiful, but they're way far away. Well, take that image and take that feeling and bring it to the foreground. I'm going to show you the second one that is that deals with something a little more nature-like. Now you should have gotten that email. Did you guys get that one? The ones with the hydrangea?
Hydrangea?
Hydrangea, the flowers.
No.
Okay, I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Okay, here, this is the image that I was working from, looking out my front
Yeah.
door.
Oh, yeah.
You got this, right? Well, the name of this flower is hydrangea. Okay, so there's a pathway.
Mm-hmm.
There's a round piece of a round table. There's a planter, the walkway. There's a little bit of bricks. And then there's this metal sculpture. So now this doesn't have that many colors, except it had, the thing that drew me to this was the blue hydrangea. They're very exciting, and they really made the image pop for me. Okay, so from that image, again, I looked at it and I got my palette, which is very different from the first palette. This has, you know, the blues and greens and, you know, the iron structure and the color of the flowers and several greens because that's what's the grass and the leaves of the flowers. Okay. And then the grid that came from that is also very different from the first grid. So you can see how the colors work together. This seems a little bit tedious right now, but this is an exercise that you will learn to love, if that's possible. But it really helps with your painting and with your selection of colors and your mixing of colors, just everything. These are like an invaluable tool. Okay, The composition there,
Excuse me, Karen,
yes.
with the mixing of the colors and whatnot, how do you hang on to that for use next week or whatever? Do you have like little cups of colors?
Well,
or-
you could put them in some kind of a container. Some, you know, the styrofoam egg cartons. Those are very good for that. And you can put saran wrap over the top, and they'll pretty much stay. If they dry out a bit, at least your tone and your color and your feel for that color is there. So you can always go back and mix more. Okay, the composition for this one. Okay, this was the table coming in from the side, the bricks, the sculpture, the walkway, the grass, and then there's some other flowers, and there's a couple of rocks in there. Okay, this is the kind of guide that you need. I don't want you, when you go to draw your drawing, whatever it is, I don't want you to do a full rendering with a pencil underneath there. It needs to be a guide for watercolor. That's the only thing you need. It can be a little more detailed than this if you want, but don't overdo it, because then it becomes a drawing and not a painting. Okay? Now, what happened when I went from my palette to my grid to my composition on paper? Here's what happened. Okay, now you can see that, I hope you can see this.
Karen, don't hold it in front of your face. We can't hear you that well.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. How's that?
Good.
That's better. Okay, you can see the table coming in from the side, and it has a woven edge. So now I've done the woven edge. Now some of these things, and we're going to talk about technique next. We're going to talk about, did I use masking fluid under there to leave the light areas? Indeed I did. Okay, we have the masking. I also masked out this big metal structure because I wanted to paint the walkway and the grass and everything over that. So I wanted that to stay. And you see the way the walkway is done, not every stone appears in that walkway. And what I did there was I put the wash on and I used a scrubber. Does everyone know what a scrubber is?
No.
Okay, I'm going to show you. Here we are. This is a scrubber, and it has a very stiff end on the brush. They're very inexpensive. You can buy a pack. You can buy a pack of 3. They have 3 different sizes in that pack. And what this does is, I put that paint down for the walkway. I let it dry, and then I went back, and I just put water on the scrubber, and I went over and lifted some of the paint off to create the walkway stones. Okay, it's a more subtle way of doing it instead of trying to paint in every stone. And I think it looks a little better, and otherwise it would be in competition. There would be too many things that were too detailed. So the flowers are the star here, the hydrangeas and this metal sculpture. Those are the main focus. So if you go back to my elements of composition, you know, you have unity. Do they all work together? I think they do, because this is coming in from here. The walkway is going back. This is overlapping. That's one thing when you're doing an image. Look for things that you work together, they have unity, they overlap. Is there a good balance here in this painting? I think so, because the walkway, even though it's gray and it's farther back, it's still light, and that whole area is in balance to what's happening in the foreground. Okay? All right. So that's where we are. That's where we are going with the 2 different ways to go, or 2 different images. Now, let's see some of the, I want to see some of these questions over here. Let's see, response. Oh, you did not receive that email? Did you all get the email now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's see. And you put your own emails here, so that's good. Now, so far, we went through let's see, the materials that you're going to need, the setup when you're setting up and you're painting. This may sound elementary, but it's something that is needed. You're going to need a water bath, of course, for your rinsing of your brush. It's also very important to keep that water clean all the time. And you're going to need paper towels. You're going to need a testing piece of paper to test your colors on, because you don't want to be putting any colors that you're mixing. Barbara, are you painting? She's not answering me. That's funny. She looks like she's painting. And of course your brushes, okay? The palette, we discussed taking those colors out of your images, creating the grid, and then going in and doing your composition sketch. Okay, now between this week and next week, what I would like you to accomplish is I'd like you to, even if it's one image, I'd like you to create a palette for that image, and I'd like you to create a grid for that image, and I'd like you to come up with your sketch, which is your composition on the paper. Yes?
Are you making your sketch on the watercolor paper that you're going to be painting on?
Yes, you're going to do your sketch right on your paper.
Okay.
You should be creating all of these things on watercolor paper in order for them to show you what's actually going to happen. What's actually going to happen to the paint on the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Karen,
Yes, Joanne.
you said I think there were 8 points to the composition.
Yes.
I'll read you the 7 that I got.
Oh, here, well, I'll go through them again. Unity.
Okay.
Unity.
Yeah.
Do all the parts of the composition belong together? Do they belong together? Does anything feel out of place to you? That's the other thing. You know, you are in charge of the painting. If something is in there and you don't want it, then you edit it out, or you make it bigger, or you make it smaller.
Okay.
The second one is balance. Is the picture symmetrical or asymmetrical? And is that a good thing? And do you like it one way or another? Do you want something that bleeds off the edge? You know, do you like that better? Do you like something that's very centralized? Movement. There are many ways to give a sense of movement in a painting, such as arrangement of the object, the position of the figures, the flow of a river. Those are the things that give motion. Now, what gave motion in the 2 examples? I think for the hydrangea, the flowers, I think the walkway, I think the iron sculpture gave motion. Those are the things that give motion. Look for those kind of things when you're looking for an image to paint. Rhythm. Much the same way as music does, a piece of art can have rhythm, under an underlying beat, the eye as you look at it. What parts of the image create a sense of rhythm? What creates rhythm to you? You can look at that sun. To me, that created a real sense of rhythm, because there was a beat that went around for every one of those rays that was done in a different pattern. Rhythm. Focus. The viewer's eye ultimately wants to rest on something that's most important. What's most important? I think that in the blue hydrangea painting, I think the blue made that the focus. And I think in the one with the sun, I think the sun became the focus, obviously. This number 6 is contrast. What are the differences between light and dark, which I showed you the thing I want you to do with a value chart where you go from light to dark. I want you to really practice that value thing, because that's going to be ultimately something really good. Pattern, an underlying structure, the basic lines and shapes in your composition. Patterns, the pattern of the walkway, the pattern of the table that came in from the side, the pattern the flowers made, the pattern the fence made. Those are patterns. And proportion, how things fit together, big and small, nearby and distance. Okay?
Yep, I had missed rhythm.
Oh, rhythm, okay. All righty.
Carrie,
Yes,
um,
Camille.
what we have selected might not be as interesting with elements that your painting has. So can we add things?
Of course you can. But just, you know, keep in mind that when you're adding or subtracting, that it's for good reason. And where is it and how does it work? How does it work with the other things in the painting?
Karen,
Yes?
is there a difference between hot press and cold? What is the difference between hot press paper and cold press? Because I have both.
Oh, okay. Well, the cold press has a surface that's not very, very smooth. It has a more textured feeling. The
Okay.
hot press is usually on the smoother side. And they take paint differently. Have you been painting on both those papers?
No, my friend gave me all my supplies, so I'm
Oh.
new.
Good for you. Nice friend. And you know what? When you're starting, since you have both papers, I would maybe do a painting on one and another painting on the other, so that you can get a feel for the two kinds of paper. On the hot press, the paint has a feeling where it sits up on the paper and is not absorbed as well or as quickly. It's just a different feel. I'll tell you, I have used hot and cold press, and for different things, it works beautifully. You just have to decide.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Diane, do you have a question? No? Anybody? Okay, Diane's box keeps lighting up. I don't know why that is. Okay, have all of you taken a class with me before? No, some are brand new. That's why I wanted to go through materials and I would like to talk a little bit about techniques now, since we have a few minutes, because I'm going to be addressing techniques all along the way. So please take note of these techniques. The one we talked about, first of all, was masking fluid. Why use masking fluid? Well, if you have something light or something intricate or something where you need to paint the full background all over, then I would use the masking fluid. The ways you can use masking fluid, you can use it with a pen, you can use it with the little bottle. And I'll tell you, once you get these going, Camille, and you put a straight pin, no, listen up. When you get these going and you rinse them out and you pay attention to them, they're fabulous. The other thing you can do is if you want to, pardon? Straight pin. Straight pin and hot water when you're done working. So, and you keep doing that each time you finish working. It's a great method. If you're going to be using masking fluid where you don't want it to be a rigid line or something that is very controlled, you can use a brush. But here's an important thing to remember. You can use a little cup, use a brush, but put soapy water in here, dip your brush in the soapy water, then dip that in your masking fluid, put it on your painting, and then rinse it off, because otherwise you'll ruin your brush. So you need soapy water if you're going to be using masking fluid with a brush. I've used it with a brush, and sometimes you get, if you really want a wispy feel, or you want clouds, say you want clouds in your sky, so you use a brush and you put the masking fluid on, then you paint blue over top of that for your blue color in the sky, or gray sky, like today. But, and then when it's all dry, you, of course, use these rubber cement pickup, which is a hard rubber square, but everything has to be dry. The paint has to be dry, and the masking fluid has to be dry. And then you just rub this on there, and it comes off. But you're going to learn these techniques along the way.
Karen,
Let me just discuss.
Karen?
Yes?
This is Cheryl Stutzy. This is the masking fluid that I've been using.
Yeah, that's good too. That's very good.
Screw top. I mean, it's just a tube.
Right. Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it works good. I have a couple like that.
Okay.
And you can, it just depends on what's appropriate for your painting. If you needed a brush feel, like a dry brush feel with masking fluid, then you use a brush. If you want to, go and like let's see, this here that was done with masking fluid, this sculpture, that was all done with masking fluid, and a very similar piece that you have there. And sometimes I use the bottle, sometimes I use a brush, sometimes I use the pen. Okay, and it's a masking fluid can be your friend. You just have to know how to use it.
Can you explain a little bit more in detail how you use the masking fluid with that sculpture?
Oh, with the sculpture? Sure. Well, I did my drawing, the composition, I worked that out first. And then I took, you know, I can actually send that as an email to everybody if you'd like to see it, how it's done. Because I did a step-by-step where I had the drawing, then I had the masking fluid. But what you do is you take your brush, or your pen, and you just draw with your masking fluid. You look at your image and you just keep drawing. You go in there and you let it dry completely, and then you can paint over it when it's completely dry. Okay? But these are things that you're going to experience and have to practice. That's what it's all about.
Is there a place you could recommend buying all of these things, like the masking fluid?
Well, I'll tell you, Jerry's online has been absolutely terrific. The things are delivered right to the door. You know, you don't even have to go out, or you can order them, and then you go to the door and they bring them out for you. It's curbside, curbside pickup. Oh, this world, I'm telling you. Woo, mamma mia, as they say. Okay.
Is that a store, Jerry's? I've never heard.
Jerry's, it's Jerry's Artist Outlet, and it's in, was that West Orange there?
West Orange.
West Orange. So if you go online.
With G or J?
J, Jerrys, Artist Outlet. Okay, and I'm telling you, they have everything in fact, you can just put in, you know, masking fluid, and they'll show you what they have. You'll put in different size brushes.
It's an Essex green. It's an Essex green.
Essex Green Shopping. That's
right. I mean, it's one of the few stores that still exists in Essex Green.
Yeah, that's the truth. I discovered recently this line of brushes. They're not very expensive, and they're really excellent. It's called Silver Black. Imagine this, Silver Black Velvet. This is what they look like. They have black bristles, and even though this is a number 18, I'm going to show you something. Look how fine the point comes. So you can do a big wash area, and then you can do a really fine point. Okay, and so this is a number 18, but this is a number 4, and this is for really fine work. And they are terrific. They are just terrific. They don't last forever, but they last a long time. So you need those brushes. You need a scrubber for sure, and masking fluid. And let's see, what else we got here? Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the techniques that you can work with within your painting. Techniques besides a flat wash. Do you all know the term flat wash? No. Okay, well, I'm going to have to demo that, because what you do is you mix up a color, and you want to be able to create like a real smooth flat wash background. Sometimes you want to go from dark to light as a gradation. Sometimes you just want something to be beautifully flat and flat color, and that's a flat wash. So we're going to be doing gradation. We're going to be doing flat wash. I will show masking fluid demonstration. Some of the other things to think about and to please write down, because when you hear it again, you'll say, oh, I know what she's talking about. Saran wrap or plastic wrap. Has anybody worked with that? Okay. If you work with any of these techniques in the right way, you can't imagine they're magical. They are magical, and it just takes time to work with them. Plastic wrap. How about when you're doing a sky and you want wispy clouds? What's the best way to get that? Well, you know, cotton ball or cotton pad. When you put your paint on, don't let it dry completely, and all of a sudden you're just going to wisp across. You're going to wisp across the sky with the cotton pad, and you can't believe how natural and beautiful that comes out. Scoring. Do you know scoring? Scoring, you need to get a bamboo skewer that you might use for a kebab or in cooking. You might use that for testing and see if something's done. What you do is you put your watercolor down, any color. Then you take your stick, your skewer, and you score lines, or you score circles, or you can make any design scoring. Then you take that same color and you put it back over top. And what happens is it floods all the areas that have been scored. And it's really wonderful when you're doing bark on a tree, or when you're getting into flowers, and you know how they go deeper and deeper and deeper color far into the flower. Well, the scoring helps that go into the flower. It's a really good technique. What about kosher salt? Kosher salt, you put down your color, then you let it dry for a few minutes, then you sprinkle kosher salt on, and you're going to get a pattern from that. Now, all of these techniques do not go with every painting. You have to make a decision. Does this work with what I'm doing? Is it appropriate? Is it appropriate? Okay. Watercolor pencil. That's another great thing to have. You can work, you can dip your pencil into water and draw or paint with it. You can put down wet color, and take a dry pencil and draw into that as well. And you're going to get two different techniques there. We are going to experience in these 6 weeks all of these techniques, and I'm going to talk about them in depth, and we're going to work with them and practice them. Okay. Let's see. So masking fluid, plastic wrap, cotton pad, scoring, and watercolor pencil. Okay. Now, whoa, what do we got? Do we have? Oh, I see Michelle. She's put down the supply list here for everybody. Okay, does everybody have, is everyone clear about what we're going to be doing this week, getting ready for the actual painting?
Just a question about the paper.
Yes.
You said 130 pound and they only had 140 pound. Is that?
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you, anything between 100 and 140 is okay.
Oh, 100 is okay too.
Yeah, it is. It's okay. What happens is, and if you work off of a pad, it's really good if you get something where you can tape your pad paper down. If you work off of a block, which is, you know, a block is something where it comes like this. You'll see it's there in a block. And as silly as this might sound, you look at the top, you see here, this is where you open it up. You just stick a knife or a letter opener in there, and but you don't take your paper. If you're going to work off a block, do not remove your paper from the block. That's what keeps it stable. Oh. Okay? And you can work any size you want.
Oh,
absolutely. Right. Any size at all. Any other questions? Okay, so let me just recap a little bit. Materials, we know what we need. You know the setup you need. I'm supposed to get my arm camera to hold my other camera so that you can see what's going on down here. Right now, you can't see that. But we have a lot to do before we get to that area. During the week, I would like to see your progress. And my email address is, got your pencils ready? Okay, it's Bastille, BASTILLEDAY 14 at AOL. And as you're going and you're going to be showing me things, please don't hesitate to add a question here or there and show me what you're doing as you're going. Because that way, you know, I can help you and we can progress better. Yes, Camille.
What do you want done by next week?
I want one of your images. I want your, on one of the images, on one of your photographs or whatever reference you're working from, I want you to show me your palette of your 10 colors that you see in that image. I want to see that final grid of all 10 colors and all the jewel tones that are in the grid. And I want to see your sketch for your painting.
On the painting paper.
Yes, on your paint. Everything now is on painting paper. And you know, you don't have to do your grid and your palette real big. You know, these I did on single sheets. But you could easily have the grid on one. It's just easier if you do the grid a little bigger. Okay? So for next week, that's our plan. All righty? Any other questions? Let's see. Did anybody ask me something here? Should we be notating? Absolutely. Yes. Anybody else?
Will we be painting next week?
You'll probably be doing some, it's really hard for me to be talking, demonstrating, and you painting but you could have that going and just be listening. You could be listening to me, but you could be painting, but it's going to be impossible for me to see what you're doing. I mean, unless you're showing me, I would rather see what you're doing as an email, and then I can comment on it as you're going along, because that's kind of impossible. Hi, Marilyn. That's kind of impossible to see this many people and that much work.
This is very basic, but I got new colors.
Okay.
I don't even know do you take a drop of water and put it on a color? Do you take a little water on?
You know what I call that?
No.
Waking up your color.
Okay.
You get a spray bottle. Is it Manna?
Manna.
Manna. Manna, you get a small spray bottle.
Okay.
Before you start painting. Oh, can you see Camille over here?
Yeah.
Okay, before you start painting, you get ready to get all your materials set up. You spray your paints. You wake them up.
Okay.
And then you're going to start mixing and working from that point. Okay. Does that paint set have like a tray where you can mix other colors?
No, I have to get a different one.
Okay, well, you just need an area that you can mix in as well.
You know, what I have right now is Chinese food.
That's okay. That's okay. It's going to slide around a little bit, but you know, hey,
okay,
give it a shot.
Okay. Okay.
You know, this is not perfection. This whole experience. But
get the special one from Jerry's with the paint around the edges.
Well, that comes with no paint in it. You have to buy paints that you're going to squeeze. You know, that comes where you have to do tube paint. Let's see. What do I have here? And that's kind of when you're really ready to make the investment.
Okay. Nice.
Okay. See how this goes first. And then I'll tell you, all the years I've been buying paint, I buy 1 or 2 tubes of paint. Now, what do you have, Camille, there? What is that?
This is Prang. It's a student quality paint. Prang.
Okay.
And I usually do my first painting with this before I use the good stuff.
Okay, well, that's a good trial. I mean, I have some paintings that I've done 3 and 4 times. So I do a kind of a light painting first and see if I like it, see if I like the composition. And then if I think it's worthwhile, I'll go on from there. Okay? Anybody else?
I have a question on the grid. How much space between the 1-inch squares?
1/4 inch. Hi, Carla.
Hi.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, it's a lot to absorb first, but I'll tell you, if you get that palette from your image and you get that grid and you get a light sketch done, in 1 week's time on one painting, that's an accomplishment. And I hope to be better, better accomplished at this whole, you know, online teaching. But you know, I'm finding my way.
You did very well. Thank you.
Did fine.
Karen,
Okay. Yes.
I think Gary's would give you a discount because you're in a class.
You know what? I would mention that you're painting and the class is being run by the Montclair Mill. You know, I would mention that. They might. They might.
Another thing I just remembered from way, way back when I was a kid is using a muffin tin.
Muffin tin, excellent for mixing, yes. And even the mini muffin. Yeah, even the mini muffin tins. The little ones. Yeah, that's a great tool.
This set came with this little plastic thing.
That's perfect.
Oh,
Use it.
Okay.
Yay, that's very good. Okay. Oh, here we go,
You
Barbara. Barbara, you're so far away. Are you hiding from me? Oh, there we go. She's got little mixing trays there you can get.
Yeah, like this.
But the whole thing with Jerry's is you can do it online and then you can have it mailed to you, or you can do it online and do a drive-by. So that's good. That's a good setup they have. Who's this lady over here in the green sweater? Hi, what is your name? Whoops.
Lynn.
Lynn, that's right. I remember Lynn when we were doing the vegetables. How are you?
Hi, Camille.
There's Camille. It's really good to see all of you, and I think we're going to have fun with this. And remember, we've all been inside a long time now, and that's why I chose this subject, that we can look outside, and it's springtime, and this will be a nice memory piece for this. Even though it's a bad memory, we'll have good memories of the painting.
I just wanted to make sure you want us to email the grid and the sketch and the palette to you before the class?
I would like that, just to see how you're doing.
Okay.
Okay, and if there's any questions, I'll be able to answer them at the same time.
All right.
Okay, are we good?
Good.
Okay. I'll see you next week. Send me goodies in the mail.
Okay.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Michelle.
Bye, everyone.